Hello and welcome to Wise Woman Wednesdays. My name is Jennifer Regular, and I am the Soul Illuminator at Lighting the Path and also host of this show, where I get to bring amazing messengers, inspiring women from all around the world to share their journey of what really lit their path and how they're contributing now to help uplift humanity. So, this is helping you to feel inspired and empowered to start becoming who you came here to be and do what you came here to do. Today, I'm excited to welcome Gloria Grace Rand. She has Hungarian roots and is now living in Florida, and here to talk about self-care isn't selfish. But before we get to that, let me tell you a little bit more about her. She is the best-selling author, speaker, energy healer, and founder of the L.O.V.E method. Overcoming a family history of substance abuse and depression through the grace of God, Gloria channels messages from the heart to awaken her clients to their divine identity so that they can live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically. Welcome, Gloria. It is such an honor and pleasure to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Jennifer. I am delighted to be here and am looking forward to our conversation today.
Yes, absolutely. So let's get into it then. What made you so passionate about self-care?
Well, I would say probably because it's something that I haven't always been very good at doing for myself, as
Hmm.
as as it is always, and in fact, it's that case for a lot of women. In fact, that I forget what the statistic is off the top of my head, but I think it's like 68% don't do some kind of self-care every day.
Really, it's
So
that high,
yeah,
even
it's
in
that
today's world.
I think so. So
Mm.
it's something that it's easy to skip, I think, because we do get so caught up in taking care of others and putting others' needs first. And I know that was definitely the case for me. I've been, well, first I was a daughter and I often had to take care of my mom. She had a lot of health problems. And then got married and my husband sometimes needed me to take care of him. And then I raised two kids, and then I had a sister who went through cancer, so I wound up taking care of her a bit. And so sometimes I'd be good at taking care of myself, but sometimes I wasn't. And I think it's that way for a lot of people too. And not even women, just men as well. They often have trouble because I think they don't often prioritize it either. Because of course they need to be strong and they've got to be the breadwinners, and so they don't necessarily think taking care of themselves is as important either, but it is for everybody so much more.
It is so important. And sometimes there's this belief or this hidden agenda in there that's like, well, I can take care of myself. So why do I need this self-care? Like, what is that? And the idea that it can be selfish. So I like that you take the stance that it isn't selfish. So what is your perspective on self-care?
For me, it really is about taking care of your physical, your mental, your emotional, and spiritual needs.
Mm.
And it's, the best analogy is still from when you think about when you're going on an airplane. The flight attendants always tell you that when that oxygen mask drops down, you need to put it on yourself first and then take care of the people who need you, because that's one of the main reasons why self-care isn't selfish. It's because you do need to be able to take care of yourself first so that then you can take care of others. And I still love, I heard this, I'm a fan of Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks. And one time they talked about the fact that if someone is asking you to do something for them and you're really, you want to, but it's like you feel like you can't do it, but you'll say yes anyway. If you think about it, the person who is making this request, aren't they the ones who are actually being selfish because they're trying to get you to do something for them?
Mm.
Whereas, then if you try to say no, then they're going to say, oh, well, you're just being selfish because you're, doing something else instead of taking care of my needs. It's like, hmm, um, I think our definitions of selfish are kind of, I don't know, a little screwy. Let's just say.
Yes.
So it shouldn't be thought of as selfish. It really is just about about caring for yourself. And there are so many different ways that you can do it, and it doesn't have to be expensive either. I think that's where a lot of people think that, oh, self-care means I've got to go get a massage, or
Mm.
I've got to, spend a ton of money on some sort of classes or something. But there's plenty of things that you can do that are inexpensive. And I I love to tell the story of one of my clients. Was She was feeling very stuck. She had writer's block. She was a writer. And so I asked her, like, what is, we were talking before we got started here about your happy place. So, like, where's your happy place? And so she said, going outside and being out in nature. So I said,
Mhm.
well, then do that for a little bit, spend some time every day doing that. And because that's your type of self-care that you need to do. And that's free. You're just walking. And so when she was able to do that, she started feeling better about herself. And then she was able to start getting back into the writing because she was coming from a happier place instead of being all stressed out because, getting like writer's block and not being able to do it. So
Yes.
it's so easy. And my sister-in-law used to lock herself in the bathroom and take a bath because she was raising three boys. And
Yeah.
so she needed self-care desperately.
And to lock the door.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's like, this is my time. So again, it can be just something as simple as that. And it doesn't have to take even necessarily take a lot of time either. You
Yeah,
can,
isn't it interesting about our beliefs, but even just our understanding of what self-care actually means, like whether it's going to the spa or out fishing or taking a bath, like how do we know that we're taking care of ourselves? And what does that mean? And how can we show ourselves care? And you
mhm.
mentioned a few different areas, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. There's ways of tending to our needs
Mhm.
and maybe generating our energy too, like the person going out into nature and just finding that alone time, that space, some room to breathe
Yeah.
and just be rejuvenated and reconnecting with the natural world.
Mhm.
So just even the idea of understanding what self-care means or having to go buy a gym membership, right? You
Yeah.
also got to go,
Right. That's true.
right? So there is some action involved, but there's also some forethought about and planning of what that is.
Mhm.
And like you say, it's important. So how do we begin to make self-care a priority in our lives?
I would say probably one of the first things is decide. Number one is to decide because what is it, the root, the Latin, I think, means to cut off. So it means that you are making yourself a priority when you decide to do that. And
Mm,
then if you need to, schedule it in your calendar if you have to do that. But ideally, it should be something that you can devote a few minutes of your day to, whether it's first thing in the morning or maybe it's at the end of the day if you're more of a night person, whatever works for you. But if you need to, put it on your calendar first or put a reminder on your phone that says, self-care, because it might take a little bit for you to get into a habit and of taking that time for yourself. But if you've got that reminder kind of coming up, then eventually you'll be like, okay, I'm going to do it today. And again, don't think that it has to be a long time. Maybe it is just taking 5 minutes for yourself. And here's the thing too, is that I think sometimes again people feel that it's selfish to do self-care, and I don't have the time to really do it. And I get that because sometimes there are days when you really are busy. But if you can figure out what type of practice you can do that is non-negotiable, and then say that you're going to spend at least 5 or 10 minutes doing that, and then on the days where you do have more time, then you can spend more time. So for me, meditation is my non-negotiable. I
mm,
do that every day, no matter what. You know, it may be as little as 15 minutes, or it can be as long as an hour and a half, depending on what my schedule is like that day. But I I need that for me. That really is my way of kind of filling my cup up so that I can handle the rest of the day, because there are times in the past when I wasn't doing that and I could tell the difference. I really could. During the day I wasn't centered, and things would upset me much more often than if I had started the day with that time, giving myself the gifts of it. And think of it that way too, is you're giving yourself a gift of spending time on yourself, so that again, once you are able to be filled, then you can go ahead and take care of the other people in your life, whether it's your family, whether it's your coworkers or employees, if you own a business. But you've got to give some time to yourself first.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. And it's interesting the terms we use, like there's the cost of not tending to self-care and
Mhm.
spending time and energy doing things, making sure we're spending time and energy on the right things. The same way we
Mhm.
want to make sure we're spending our money on the right things, right?
Right.
Making that right investment. So what is the return on our investment? What is it that would make it worthwhile to spend our time and energy on?
Well, I tell you, if you don't spend the time on it, it can really cause a lot of different problems. It can cause you to not be as patient with people. So it could wind up damaging your relationships with perhaps your spouse or your children, or again, the people that you work with, or employees. It can start leading to physical problems as well. If you find that you are having headaches or stomach aches, and that's a warning signal. Your body is telling you, hey, I need some attention here. You need to lower your stress level, because stress is like one of the biggest causes of all sorts of different diseases. And in fact, I didn't even realize this, but I was doing some research the other day, and heart disease is actually the number one killer of women in the United States.
Wow.
So, um, and it's a lot of it is triggered by too much stress, because too much stress can affect your blood pressure. It can also lead to things like diabetes. So it really is in your best interest for your mental health, for your physical health, to take time and take care of yourself. Because again, then you're not going to be able to take care of others if you're not taking care of yourself first. And
Right.
you won't be able to take care of your work or your business, because it can show up there as well. You can start being, disorganized, or not. You could have trouble sleeping, and then you're, tired during the day, and you're not as productive as you used to be. So,
Yes. And so you mentioned meditation, being out in nature. What are some of the other ways that people can start taking self-care?
oh goodness, let's see. It can be, if you'd like listening to music, maybe it's just putting some music on and
Mm,
dancing around your living room. It could be, massages are still a good way to do self-care as well. If you can afford to do that, at least once a month would be a lovely thing to treat yourself to.
mm,
You can, let's see, what else? I mean, it basically is whatever relaxes you or lights you up. Because I mean, some people have hobbies where they like to knit or crochet. My mother used to crochet all the time, and that was her way of de-stressing after working, because she was um, a woman who worked full time even back in the 70s, when there weren't quite as many as there are today. And
mm,
so that was her way. Maybe it's needlepoint, or maybe you like to play an instrument. I play the guitar too. Sometimes I do that as a way to be able to de-stress. So yeah, I would say maybe take some time and think about what are the different things that you enjoy doing. And
mm,
then, maybe some of them are things maybe you can do on the weekends, and then maybe there's others that you can do during the week to work into the work week, that are a little bit less time consuming per se. But and it could even just be reading. It could be
mm.
reading a book, or just maybe listening to some quiet music, and maybe just, sitting and looking outside the window. Because again, meditation doesn't necessarily have to be sitting in the lotus position on a mat and for an hour. Although
Mm-hmm.
I do have a meditation mat over there, but but for some people that doesn't work for them. So it could be going for a walk outside. That could be their type of meditation.
Mm.
Or this is something I've recommended people too, is especially if you are maybe going out for work, you're working out of the home now, that things, some of the offices are wanting people to come back to work now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you didn't have time to do anything in the morning, when you come home and you pull into the driveway, don't get out of the car right away. Don't tell anybody you're home. Spend 5 minutes in the car meditating, just kind of
Yes.
close your eyes and just take a few deep breaths and just center yourself before you enter the home. And you will feel so much better, because then, especially if you've had like a hectic day, perhaps, then you can let some of that go so that you can be more present for the people that you live with, or the pets. Maybe if you live alone, and you can be more present for your cat or your dog. which,
Yes.
which brings me to another thing. You could, maybe if you've got animals, that could be another thing of
Ah,
self-care, taking care of your animal or just playing with them.
yes.
That's, take your dog for a walk. That could be something too.
They sound like all ways that we can de-stress and release some of that pressure and then kind of just pull us away for a moment from our regular habits and routines and just get back in touch with what brings us joy, what lights us up and into that creative flow, whether it's music or crocheting
Mm.
or other creative pursuits. And it gets us tapped into the other part of our brain that we might not always keep in balance because we're always so busy pushing, doing,
Mhm.
following, our obligations and
Yes.
responsibilities and so on. And this is a way to just kind of rebalance the nervous system as
Yeah.
well and come back into a place of grace, ease, and flow. And I like the idea of being able to follow what brings us joy and what lights us up, because that really helps support us in keeping our spirit intact. You mentioned about spiritual wellness as well. Can you talk a little bit more about that one?
Sure. And for me, that some of the things that I do again is meditation, and maybe it's reading spiritual books, or if
Mm.
reading the Bible, or listening to lectures on YouTube or something. Find some people that are really inspiring to you, and and that's really what it is. It's about being in spirit and connecting with that your higher self. And that, I really do believe that is so important, because that is what helps to keep us grounded, and so that we can be be the best versions of ourselves,
Mm.
and to go out and do the things that we want to do in the world. And and I really do feel that when we can do that, it helps us, not only ourselves, but then it also helps us in our relationships. And then we're able to uh, treat people with more kindness and more respect, when in fact when we're doing that to ourselves as well, as because I think self-care is is really about self-love and about self-respect. You're
Yeah.
taking the time for yourself, and giving you, I mentioned earlier, giving yourself this gift of time, and nurturing the different parts of yourself that need nurturing. And that way then you're going to feel much more whole as a person, and happier. Ultimately, I think it's really going to help with your mood, and then when you're happy, you can do more things, get more done, um, and just live life, in a much nicer, happier way.
Yeah. So I'm hearing you say that it brings us that learning and growth and expansion and peace and joy and happiness. And it's also when we're doing it for ourselves, we're doing it to be more available and more present with others and to deepen our relationships. And as you say, engage more authentically and to
Hmm.
love more deeply. And like you say, it's not selfish because it has such a positive effect on everyone around us
Yeah.
and actually help us to live life better and more fully and from
Hmm.
a place of wholeness and balance. And that continues to evolve. It's just like expanding our light.
Yeah,
Which I love the
absolutely.
acronym for light is living in God's highest truth, you know, and as you spoke
Mhm.
when you shared about your childhood, and it was by the grace of God that you were able to see the light and joy and what life can be like
Mhm.
outside of those situations and ways of living, and who was around you and what you had to tend to and had to endure, that there's ways that we can take care of ourselves, especially when we don't feel taken care of, that we had been taken care of by our
Mhm.
parents or our caregivers, or that
Yeah.
we were overly responsible, maybe being the oldest child, for having to take care of everyone else.
Yeah.
And we kind of lost the perspective and ideas of how to care for ourselves. So
Mhm.
I really appreciate all that you've shared in helping us to remember that it's okay, and not only okay, but necessary and important, and really supports the
Mhm.
care that we have for others and being able to be in harmony with ourselves and the world around us.
Yeah,
You come
absolutely.
from that balanced state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and I just want to add one other thing too, because
Mm.
I just remember this. This is an important point as well. Is if you are um, living with someone, and again, this is the way to say that this isn't selfish, but to one of the things I talk about in my book is something called the love method. And so the O in
Yes.
love stands for open your heart to receive. So it's what I say in this respect would be open your heart to receive help. So ask for help, ask for a buy-in essentially from your other family members and say, hey, I want to be able to spend this time in self-care. This is my time for me. I just want to make sure that that's going to be all right with you. And then when you need some time for yourself, then I will gladly give that to you. So come to an agreement, so that way there's no hard feelings and nobody is going to feel like you're being selfish for wanting to do
Yeah.
self-care. So if you can, set those boundaries, and that's why, like, my sister-in-law would say, hey, this is my time, and I need this time to myself to rejuvenate. So if you can get that, so just don't be afraid to ask for support from the people that are near you, and then offer it to them as well. And then they will so appreciate you, and they'll be glad to be able to give you that time.
Yes, absolutely. And if it's not feeling so safe yet, then take that 5 minutes, like you said, in the
Yeah.
car before you enter the home, or make some kind of
Yeah.
little transition space. But you
Right.
also work with people on this and being able to build their capacity for self-care. So how do you work with people, Gloria?
I work with them in a coaching capacity. So I love being able to uh, help them, and I've got a couple different tools that I use for that. So talking with people and finding out where they need support, and I do implement the love method that I write about in my book, and helping them to understand. It's really about learning how to put yourself first and how to really value who you are as an individual, so that you can be yourself and be able to
Yes.
be really comfortable in that, and show up and shine your light in the world. And I also have been able to do something called light language, which is a type of modality. It's sort of a sound healing modality, or at least for my version anyway. I know some people write it, but it's a way of, some people called it like speaking in tongues, but it's a soul language, communication with your soul, that I basically, it's a love language, and it
Hmm.
really helps to uh, relieve stress as well, and gives you a feeling of more peace, and being in harmony with yourself. And so that's one of the things that I do as well with people. So it's a wonderful gift that I've been able to share, and I love being able to do that with other people.
Yes. Thank you for the work that you do and the support you give and being able to share your gifts. It takes a lot of courage to be able to express them,
Mm,
you know?
that's
So
true.
how do people get in touch with you?
Well, I have a website, of course, that's which is gloriarand.com. That's GLORIARAND.com. And it's still in a bit of a transition at the moment because my business for a long time has actually been copywriting and writing for business websites. And so that's sort of where my tagline is messages from the heart, because the messages are not only coaching, but also helping you with your messaging as well. So because once you do feel where you're more in alignment with what your higher self is calling you to do, then I can help you with the languaging, because sometimes that is where we get tripped up when we're not in alignment. It's hard to be able to tell people what we do or why they need to hire us. So I'm still trying to work it together on my site a little bit more cohesively. So, but I just want to let people know that
it's a work in progress.
yeah.
Yes. And all the information is still there and ways to connect. And we'll have that link in the show notes for sure as well. Is there anything else that you would like to share today, Gloria Grace, while you're here with the audience?
Well, I would just encourage them to take to heart what we talked about today, and to really make sure that you are taking some time for yourself, and because you are valuable, you are uniquely you, and you deserve to be happy and healthy and whole. And the best way to do that is to take some time for yourself every day, and do that, and then you'll be able to be there for other people when they need you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to every one of you that have been listening and watching. And if you like this video, then show us that with a thumbs up so it can reach more people, or better yet, share it. Share it with your family and friends and let them know how important and okay self-care is. Thank you so much for being here today, Gloria.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our talk today. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll see you all again next time on Wise Women Wednesdays. Bye for now.